Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How to have your best Ramadan ever, inshallah. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Alhamdulillah, this is it's that time of the year, the blessed month of Sha'ban. People are trying to get themselves, or we should be trying to get ourselves prepared mentally, spiritually, physically for Ramadan, and not just outwardly fasting. That's maybe just the first step. I'm sure our guest is going to, inshallah, elaborate on this further in terms of the inner dimensions of the fast and how we can prepare for Ramadan. Inshallah, just waiting for Brother James to join us, inshallah. Thank you for the people that are joining. May Allah bless you, inshallah. Thank you for taking out your time. Appreciate you guys. It's quite, for those of you in the US, it's quite early, 8 a.m. I believe, PST, 4 p.m. here in the UK. So, alhamdulillah, happy and grateful for this opportunity to connect, inshallah, with Brother James once he comes and join us. But really, we want to talk about like making this, and these are the aspirations that we should have, right? As Muslims, should always be striving for excellence, and and with this month of Ramadan coming, like this should be our goal, right? Every Ramadan should be our goal. That how can we make this the best Ramadan ever, in terms of giving, in terms of our ibadah, our focus, our restraining of the tongue, and our restraining. Obviously, we're restraining from withholding ourselves from food, but there's so many different aspects and so many different dimensions to this. And inshallah, that's something we're going to discuss further. Let's see. Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Habibi James, Ustad, how are you? You okay?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Thank you for having me.
MashaAllah. Ahlan wa sahlan. Barakallahu feek. Thank you for taking our time. I know you've got a lot going on at the moment, mashallah, with the work that you're doing. May Allah bless you. Allahumma barik.
Alhamdulillah, thank you.
What I was thinking really was that we'll just have a very informal, kind of short exchange, brother to brother. Let's talk about Ramadan. I know you're doing some work around this at the moment, and let's hopefully give some nuggets to people who are watching. And inshallah, this is something I've been looking forward to and trying to get you pinned down. Joining.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you for for persevering, for sure. It's not easy to schedule these things. I really appreciate your perseverance.
No, thank you for taking the time. I'm really, really grateful. And I'll just do a quick introduction for Brother James. Brother James Farmous, is that the right pronunciation?
Yeah.
Is a PhD doctor, mashallah, a spiritual success coach, someone who helps Muslims exceed their goals by deepening their faith. He's the author of Before I Do, 150 questions Muslims must ask before marriage, and the forthcoming Success with God. So there's some work in the pipeline, mashallah. Success with God, the 12 rules of spiritual success, mashallah. Looking forward to that already. His spiritual MBA has helped Muslims start companies, get promotions, and leave the rat race without compromising their faith. He lives in Los Angeles with his wife and 4 children. His wife is Sister Zahra, who we had on the other week, and she kindly was kind of very kind to kind of get Brother James on board for us as well. So, alhamdulillah. Habibi, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Please, I guess let's hear it from you. Like, who are you? What do you do? Just a little bit of background for our audience.
Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salat salam ala Sayyidina Muhammad ashraf al-Mursalin. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Basically, assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is James, and about almost 10 years ago now, I had just finished my PhD, and I started my dream job in New York City as a chief technology officer of a $30 million company. And I had a wife, 2 beautiful children, lived in a beautiful apartment in Manhattan. It was almost like a scene from a movie. But fast forward just a couple of months later, my life started to unravel, if you will. And my job was not as good as I thought. I didn't feel good about it. I was always stressed, never not present with my children, always working. And there was this dissidence. On the outside, everything looked like, oh, I'm a huge success. I was getting paid very well, all these things, right? But on the inside, it didn't feel like it. So there was like this huge gap, and that gap kept widening and widening. And as I was experiencing these difficulties, as an intellectual, I did what, and as a Muslim, I did what I did in the past, which got me there. I mean, I already prayed, I already fasted, I already did Hajj, I already did Umrah, I already did all the textbook things that Muslims do. So I started looking for tactics, time management, engineering mentoring, or maybe I should do more politics at work for things to improve and these problems to resolve. And each time I invested with a tactic, even if it was for a brief amount of time, I just made things worse, because things are getting, the train is just getting farther and farther and farther away from its destination, right? I'm derailed and I'm going the wrong way, and I keep investing in all these tactics that lead to no results, right? And basically, after a while of trying all these different tactics, yet another shiny object, I was reading the Quran. And I read this verse that said, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لِمَا تَقُولُونَ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ كَبُرَ مَقْتًا عَلَى اللَّهِ أَن تَقُولُوا مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ. O you who believe, why do you say that which you do not do? Say, I said, I believe, I'm a Muslim, Allah provides, this, that, whatever. I said those things, but why don't I do them? Right? لِمَا تَقُولُونَ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ. Why do you say that which you do not do? It is most hated to Allah that you say that which you do not do. And in that moment, it just gutted me, because what I realized is that for 2 years that I was in this job, I had no faith. Even though I went to pray, even though this, I did not demonstrate faith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to demonstrate. And it is also necessary to demonstrate in this time and age in the West, to not get sucked into the rat race and all these things that I got sucked into. And so in that moment, we were in Kenya with my wife, and we were sitting waiting for Maghrib, and basically my hands were sweaty. My mouth was dry. My heart was thumping. And I was like, what's wrong with me? I'm just sitting to wait to pray. And I was just, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My heart was, I was like, oh my God, I'm having a full-blown panic attack right now. I'm like, what's going on? And in that moment, like, it just out of nowhere, it just came out of me. I was like, Zahra, when we go back home, I'm quitting my job. No plan B. We just signed the lease on a huge apartment in Manhattan. As you know, rent in New York, just like London, is very expensive. We had health insurance we were going to lose, etc., etc. But in that moment, Zahra said, Allah will not forsake us. Let's go. And so I knew that was Allah's sign telling me, look, I'm giving you courage through your wife. If your wife told you, what about the bills? What about this? What about that? It would have been extra stressful already. It was stressful and scary by itself. But Allah was giving me that courage through her. May Allah bless her. And so we go back to New York, and it was very, very difficult. I mean, we almost got evicted. We had no food, barely any food to eat. We had to take our kids out of everything. We had, we had no, basically, we were forced to practice what I heard in the Jumu'ah and what I was preaching when I gave khutbah, or when I was doing halaqas back in the day. And it was very transformative, right? I'll give you just one story. We were very hungry. We were going to Jumu'ah. My wife likes to do to a Jumu'ah that's far away. I used to live across the street from the masjid, so I prayed all my prayers at the masjid, even when these things were difficult. Not to underestimate the power of prayer, but I'm just saying, like, it is not, if it's not done properly, it's not going to get you the results that was promised to you. And so we go to Jumu'ah in this faraway place, and I had in my mind, I was like, let me grab a banana, because I had no money, and Jumu'ah, by the time I'm done with Jumu'ah, it's going to be 3 p.m. I'm going to be starving, so let me get this banana. But I forget the kids. I had kids. They distracted me. We get in the subway, like, oh my God, I forgot the banana. Come on, man. Now I'm going to be hungry and blah. And I'm just like running in my head just how upset I am that I forgot my banana, right? And if anybody, I guess it doesn't happen in the London Tube as much, but in New York, the subway, it's always a shenanigan. Always somebody singing the Lion King songs, dancing, asking for money. There's always like some act going on in the subway, right? So the subway stops. Without fail, this guy walks in. I was like, here we go again. Let's see, what is it going to be today? And this guy said, ladies and gentlemen, I have this cart full of sandwiches, chips, bananas. That's what he says, right? If you are hungry, please take whatever you want. If you are hungry and have no money, please take what you want.
No.
He says, bananas. Like, if anybody wants a banana, take a banana right now.
No.
If this is not a sign from Allah, I don't know what is. And so we went through this journey, and basically I've taken acts of faith more and more difficult over time. And but basically Allah was always giving us these breadcrumbs to let us know, like, oh, you are on the right path. You follow this, keep going. And basically maybe 8 months later, this investor called me and was like, hey, me along with Jeff Weiner, the CEO of LinkedIn, where I'm very active, by the way, if you want to follow me. She said, oh, we just put $2 million behind this company. And my PhD was in artificial intelligence. And she's like, we need somebody who does artificial intelligence. Do you want to join? Can you help? I was like, oh, I don't know. At first I was like, I don't know. I'm doing the spiritual thing. I don't want to go back to AI. Then I just went and met with them. And literally on the day, they shook my hand right away. And I told them, look, I can only work from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. because I take my kids to school and I drop them off. For 8 months, I've been with my kids all the time. So I was like, they're relying on me. I have to keep doing this. And they're like, no problem. So I was working half the time that I would work normally. And I was making a lot more. I don't know how much multiples, but it was $50,000 a month in my first contract.
Sure.
Just 2 years ago, I was making $20,000 a year as a student, as a PhD student. I went from $21,000 a year to $50,000 a month, right? Leading a $2 million company. I don't know. I didn't interview. I didn't wear a tie. I didn't do anything. Because that is the promise of Allah. Like, we think that everything is like all our results in our struggle. Oh, you have to work hard and you have to do these things. And basically what people have to take away from this story, hopefully, is that you are one act of faith away from the breakthrough that you're seeking. That marriage that you're looking through, that career move that you're looking for, that wealth that you're looking for, that health that you're looking for, anything that seems to be sort of at arm's length for a really long time, and you turn around and you see others having that as well, right? Very likely you are not acting in faith. Because when I ask them, why didn't, oh, because of this and because of that, oh, what, like, I get so many PhDs, because usually they call me, they go down on a call with me, and they're like, you know, I want to start a company. And literally they spend, I know, usually my calls are 30 minutes or an hour. They spend that 30 minutes and that 1 hour telling me all the reasons why, they convince themselves why they can't start a company. The whole time just, oh, because of this and because of the bills and because of my children, because of my wife and because of the weather and blah, 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 right? All of that gets negated once you take an act of faith. Because if you could see it, if it was obvious, it is not faith. What we say is, and what I said, Allah, I believe. Ya Allah, wallahi, I believe. Ya Allah, you are the most merciful, you are the prophet. I believe. And Allah says, okay, here's this canyon. There's a gap. Take a step. Go. Oh, Ya Allah, I believe. I swear, I believe. Just show me the bridge and I'll cross it. I swear to God, I will cross it, Ya Allah. Please, just show me the bridge. Right now, this is too difficult. I cannot take the step into the void. But that's what faith is. Faith, you got to take that step in the void and the next one next, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to catch you.
Allahu Akbar. MashaAllah. We could just end it there, and I think everyone, subhanAllah, the chat is lit up and the feedback is, mashallah, you know, so positive. That's amazing, right? That is like, that is food for the soul, right? Alhamdulillah. And, you know, this is a real iman booster. I think those of you that are watching live and those that are going to watch the replay, really, subhanAllah, in for a treat. And just that little segment there was just mind-blowing and so eloquently shared as well by yourself, mashallah, tabarakallah. Brother James, I want to kind of transfer all of that stuff that you talked about, the positive energy, and obviously there's a lot of inner work that's gone in to leading you to where you are today from the person that you were. And, you know, I love what you said about the outward actions were all there, the prayer, you know, in the masjid, and the fasting, and, you know, the outward actions were there. But you said, you know, something very, very key, you know, poignant. You said that, like, it's, you know, there's a shift that needed to happen in order for what was happening outwardly to really, like, light you up inwardly, is what I took from what you were saying, right? So can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that? From the perspective, obviously, of Ramadan, which is our topic today, in terms of, like, you know, we all know, you know, many of us get this upliftment, you know, during Ramadan, and this peace and this tranquility, and then straight after Ramadan, it's kind of, or even halfway through Ramadan, we have this crash, right? So, like, yeah, just maybe you can explain, like, what's the secret behind kind of taking things to the next level, inshallah.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, look, number one, we go over all of this in my spiritual MBA program. 12 weeks of doing this work. That's what I do as spiritual success coach. I help people remove that resistance from acting in faith, right? So that's what I do. And so here, what I would say is number one, I'll say something specific about Ramadan in a moment. But what I would say in general is that as Muslims, we read the Quran and we are promised certain things. Straight up promised, right? We are promised sakina. We are promised sustenance. We are promised peace. These are promised. We are promised no fear or sorrow, right? So that end of the deal is non-negotiable. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's promise is true. So where's the lie? Why are we not at peace? You can't tell me, I met a person who told me, I'm living heaven on earth. A lot of Muslim men have this challenge, by the way. If there are a lot of Muslim men in this audience, I don't know why. I was just doing a live event and literally there were 2 men. And maybe that's me and that's fine. But it's scary to me that it was 98% Muslim women and 2 Muslim men only attending this event, right? That it was overwhelmingly positive based on the feedback, and maybe people don't vibe with me. That's fine. You could go to somebody else. But it worries me that a lot of Muslim men are not working on themselves relative to Muslim women. And then we talk about feminism, we blame it on all sorts of other nonsense out there when, we can only control what we can control, right? Anyway, that's a side point. But what I noticed is that at the end of the day, here's the question that you have to ask yourself. Where you are today, if you are feeling that you are not accomplishing something, right? If you feel that you are not experiencing what was promised to you, that means that we have to do something different. We have to change. In order to change, we have to become different. We have to behave in a different way. That's the only way to make 2023 different than 2022, for instance, right? And what I've found is that many of us are merely interested in entrepreneurship, interested in true spirituality, interested in getting married. We're not committed. What's the difference? The difference is when you're interested in something. Let's choose entrepreneurship, starting a business. I'm interested in, or like you're a coach. Many people want to be coaches. They think coaching is just, you go and you just spit some advice on somebody and that's it. That's coaching, right? I give advice. I give advice to my cousins. I could be a coach. So they are interested in being a coach. Wonderful. But then, as soon as the first hurdle comes, you give up. That's a sign of just being interested. Another sign is you expect immediate results, right? Or if things require you to do something that makes you uncomfortable, that you don't want to do, you don't do it, right? You only do it when it's convenient. You only do it when you're guaranteed results. And that's the sign of interest. And that's in anywhere, weight loss, anything. That's what happens. Contrast that with committed. I am committed to becoming a coach. I am committed to starting a business. I am committed to being healthy for my children and my wife and my family and my community, right? When you are committed, you drop the excuses. Like, I am committed, right? That was the Prophet ﷺ. I'll use an example in a moment. But then you do things even when they're not convenient. You do things even when results don't seem to be there. You do things when nobody is watching. That's commitment. And that's the difference. That is the difference. You see, with Ramadan, what it shines on us is our interest in spirituality. Why? Because I'm doing things when it's convenient. The shaitan is not here. There's more ajr. Oh, there are brothers at the masjid. So let me go. They'll keep me company, right? And once those go away, it shows our interest, because the 31st day, the first day of Eid, the masjid is empty at Fajr. When just 2 nights ago, when it was the 29th or the 27th, you couldn't find a spot to pray. You could not put your head on the floor. Sometimes you might have to pray on somebody's back, depending on how big the masjid is. Right? And so that's the shift. The shift is going from interested to committed. And it's going to be inconvenient. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be scary. There is that shift. That's what it takes. And so let me use the example of the Prophet ﷺ in terms of commitment, right? This is how he, alayhi salatu wasalam, was so committed to this idea of Islam as a nation, right? He's being persecuted. He's being his his companions were forced into exile, his life is threatened, etc. Right? Hajj comes, this one ba'atha, this one group of people come, and he's negotiating with a tribe. This is not Yathrib, this is another tribe. He's negotiating with the tribe. The tribe says, we'll give you asylum. Yes, come live with us. You become the spiritual leader, and we become, and so becomes the political leader. And like the Prophet, if he was interested, he could have said, yeah, sure, let's do that. Man, this is horrible. It's been a decade of persecution. I need to get out of here. He said, no, thank you. What does that mean when you say no, thank you in the middle of Hajj? And this is the only time that you're going to meet with the delegations. That means that you're signing up for another year of hardship, another year of torture, of persecution, of boycott. He says, no, thank you. They leave. The next year, the next, all the people come for Hajj season. He meet the people of Yathrib. They agree. The terms make sense to him. He's like, I'll be the leader of everything. They're like, yes, all right, I'll make peace between you guys. But then he still has to wait another year, right? They said the next year you're going to come. And so, alayhi salatu wasalam, look how committed he is to this game. This is not, oh, tomorrow, whatever. Like for us, like, oh yeah, I admire Elon Musk, or I admire the Prophet ﷺ, or I admire so-and-so. But then I write one blog post and I give up. It's not written. That's our line. It is not written. After one blog post, after one meeting one person, oh, it's not written for me to get married. After getting rejected from one VC, oh, they don't invest in Muslims. Once. So many people, like, how many times you did it? Once. I've heard that so many times. I am not exaggerating right now. And so, when it comes to Ramadan, and I'll pause here, Ramadan is not the way we treated Ramadan, the way I treated Ramadan. And I used to do i'tikaf. Again, I did all the textbook things. And not to downplay them. They are useful, but they are only as useful as you make them. If you're just doing them to check a checklist, they're not going to be as useful as you think.
Yeah.
So with Ramadan, the way I treated Ramadan is more like a pause or a reset. What does reset mean? Reset just means that you go in a certain direction and then you just go back to your old state and you go back again, right? I rewind the tape. It's still the same content on the tape if I rewind it, right? And that's how Ramadan was. I was working all the time, working, burning out, putting, all my hopes and dreams in my job, in this income, et cetera, right? What I used to tell people is that I was a CTO who just happened to be a Muslim. I was just a CTO. I could have been a Buddhist. I could have been a Judaism. I could be anything. I just happened to be a Muslim. And that's what we see a lot today, is that we're just engineers, carpenters, whatever, who happen to be Muslim, as opposed to Muslim carpenters, Muslim engineers, right? And so with Ramadan, that's what I did. When Ramadan came, I slowed down. Yes, I stopped working as late. Like my productivity at work kind of went down. I went in later during the day, probably because I was waking up and sleeping, etc. I took the last 10 days off and did i'tikaf and didn't do work. But then, like you said, the second day of Eid, I just reverted back to my old ways. Yeah. Because I treated it as such. In my mind, I was not prepared to transform. Already, I didn't prime myself that I am not going back to the way I was. What we have to use Ramadan for is transformation, not a reset, not a pause, not pardon us for this momentary interruption. The regular program is going to come back after this, right? No, I'm going to give up something. I'm going to shed something. I'm going to adopt something on the other end, and I'm going to stick to it. And that's why we have our food freedom program. We started during Ramadan usually, because there are incentives. It is Boxing Day. There are incentives. Allah is making it easier in a way, and you have the community. So we want to ride that as a means. That's not the end. That's just a means. It's a means of transformation. It is not me going to Tarawih, me going to Iftar, me doing these things is not the end in of itself. Because yes, once the Tarawih goes away, what am I doing? Am I still praying at home?
Yep. MashaAllah, absolutely. This is gold, really, in terms of like what needs to happen. It's about that shift, isn't it? From like making a good intention to actually saying, no, I'm committed here. And, using, for want of a better expression, that you've got to make that intention to burn the boats, right? Like, you've reached the island and it's like, okay, there's no going back now. This is like, right. This is what needs to happen. So, so in terms of like the continuity aspect, right? Because we know in Ramadan, for example, we get the crash, and we many of us do make these sincere intentions, you know, that we want to continue, we want to have the connection with the Quran, we want to have, you know, more patience with our spouse, and, you know, we want to be more committed in terms of our diet, and you know, and controlling what we're eating and things like that, and maybe doing some additional voluntary fast after Ramadan and Shawwal. Everyone's still quite committed usually, right? So like, how, any tips for people? Obviously the mindset is key, you've said that, right? You know, that this, the mindset is the key, but practical tips in terms of like, how can we avoid that crash during Ramadan or after it?
Well, you said it. Mindset is everything. It's not even key. It is it. Yeah, the actions are very small, and I'll share some. I think the first one is just this realization. If you don't take anything from this live, just use this realization. In Ramadan, you do more than non-Ramadan. You pray more, you fast more, you donate more, you're more patient, you speak more kindly, etc., etc., etc. Whatever it is that you do today, you do more, you do better than it during Ramadan, whatever your baseline is. Why is that? Why is it that during Ramadan, our boss is no longer tyrannical and I could go to Dhuhr? Magically, all of a sudden, the tyrannical boss, oh, I can't go to Dhuhr because my boss is always on my case. But all of a sudden, we're willing to face the tyrant and go for Dhuhr or Asr, for example, during work hours. Why is it that Isha all of a sudden is not that late during Ramadan? I'm able to stay up and pray it and then go to sleep, right? Whereas before I might fall asleep shortly after Maghrib, etc., etc. Why? The most common answer, the first answer is like, oh, the shaitan is chained. Again, we like to give a lot of power to things that are outside of us. That's just by design. Destiny, the shaitan, the evil eye. Like, we've outsourced all our personal responsibility to a bunch of things out there. But the shaitan is chained. Sure, okay, the shaitan is chained. Wonderful. But how come you're not perfect then? How come you're still not perfect? You might miss a prayer. You might do this. You might speak out of line there. Some people don't benefit from that. The shaitan is chained for all of us. Some people don't go pray, even though they want to pray, but they can't go pray. Some people don't fast, even though like, oh, this year I'm going to be better and fast. If the shaitan is chained for all of us should be perfect. And some people are very, very excellent, mashallah, right? But how come? How come that distribution of perfection, of excellence around ibadah is still there in the absence of shaitan? That tells us that it's not the shaitan. The shaitan is not the cause of me falling apart or not. All the shaitan does is suggest. The shaitan cannot create. He's not a boogeyman. He's not a magician. The shaitan, all he does is suggest. Why don't you eat that? Why don't you say that? Why don't you look there? Why is it that in Ramadan we strive more than non-Ramadan? Right? Why is it? Most of us will say it's the shaitan. But the shaitan is not the reason, because many of us, yes, while we do more, many of us don't. Many of us stumble. Even if we do more, we are not perfect. So we cannot outsource all our faults to the shaitan, all our shortcomings to the shaitan. So what is it then? Right? And that's our nafs. That's our ego. That's our desires. That's what is causing us not to wake up or to delay dhuhr until the very last minute, or etc., etc. And so that becomes the results that you're getting from Ramadan, to go back, right? The dua that you're making that are getting answered, the deeper dua, you showing up, you forsaking food to run to the masjid so you could not miss Taraweeh, right? All of these things, right, were because of you. You made the commitment. You are the active ingredient in this elevation. It is not the absence of the shaitan. It is not that Allah's mercy is here. Yes, those are there. They're catalysts. They're lubricants. They're facilitators. But they are not the cause. They are not the cause of you skipping your meal to run to the masjid so you don't miss Isha. Or whatever it is, right, that you do. So that's the first realization. I'm sorry it got cut out and we had to have multiple takes of this. But the key is that you are the active ingredient of transformation during Ramadan. So that's the first thing when we talk about post-Ramadan crash, is just to realize that that is just you who lost determination, decided not to go at the same intensity, right? Not with the same commitment, right? You lost commitment. Now, how do we sustain it? Well, number one, most reason why people, it's the term, right? Crash, post-Ramadan crash. Post-iftar crash, when I eat too much, right? It's a crash. So The way to sustain after Ramadan is not to crash. How do you do that? So I'm going to give you two things that you can take home. Maybe three, I don't know. Let's see. I'm not organized right now, but there are two things at least. One, you've got to pace yourself. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon, not just for 30. It's not even a 30-day marathon. It's a 365-day marathon. So I need to pace myself thinking that it's after Ramadan. Because look, we go all out. Look how reckless we are. And I'm saying this in a respectful way, right? And then we say, look, Laylatul Qadr. Why is Laylatul Qadr, the masjid, so full, right? Dua is going to be answered. I'll be born, I'll be returning as if my mother just gave me birth. You know, it is like 1,000 months, etc., 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 right? That is true. And it is wonderful. But guess what? Between Iqama and Adhan, dua is answered. When it is raining, dua is answered. When you're traveling, dua is answered. There's an hour in Jum'ah. Most people say it's between Asr and Maghrib. When you make dua, it's answered. Why are you running around? Like, we're making it seem like Allah's mercy is exclusive just to this quote-unquote 27th night. Yes, that's again an incentive. Yes, we embrace it. We are grateful for it. If I happen to be there, Allahu Akbar, Alhamdulillah, wow, what an honor. Amazing. But if not, guess what? Tomorrow, between Fajr, between Iqama and Adhan, there's a time for me to be dua to be answered. When I break my fast, there's dua is answered. When I drink Zamzam, dua is answered, etc., etc., etc. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy always available. It's our awareness of it that is not. For some reason, because of collective awareness of the 27th of Ramadan is there, we coalesce around it. But there are many, many, many opportunities. I'm not suggesting you ignore it, but also you don't sacrifice your long term for some hypothetical short term. So how do you pace yourself? The first thing you need to do, what are we today? I can't remember where we are today, but we're about 2 weeks out of Ramadan, right? Here's the key. You start from today. You start from today. Because what I used to do when Ramadan started, the first week, the first 10 days, oh, I'm warming up, I'm getting back in shape, I'm out of shape, I'm getting back, I'm reading my Quran, I'm waking up, I'm staying up, standing up longer in prayer, trying to craft my du'as, what I want to do. I turn around, I lost 10 days to finally be, you want to hit Ramadan running. You already want to be sprint. You don't want to sprint, you just want to be jogging already when Ramadan comes in. You're praying, you're fasting, you are reading Quran already. Anything that you plan on doing, you start working on those things before Ramadan starts. If you wait until day one to start, of course, whenever you realize that it's time to start, just start, right? But what I'm saying is that if you are on this call right now, start today. Because I wasted a week, 5 days, 10 days getting up to speed of Ramadan instead of just hitting Ramadan running or jogging, right? So that, when you do that, what happens? How do you crash? Because now you feel guilty, like, oh my God, I wasted 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, half Ramadan, me getting into the spirit of Ramadan. So now you overcompensate in the last half, and that's what causes you to crash. Okay? So that's the one. Just start now. Start now. Make an intention of what you want to accomplish during Ramadan. I'll use this analogy that I gave I gave khutbah for Eid, and I used the analogy of a tourist. If you traveled, if I went to London, right? If I went to London, and I want to, my first time in London, actually, I didn't go to the UK. I always thought, well, they speak English. I don't know, like, it's fine. I speak English. I want to go to different countries. But my wife, I took her for her birthday to the UK because she loves London. And of course, when we went, we had to buy a souvenir for our kids to show them that we went there. So we got them the double-decker red bus. Stereotypical, I know, and my son loved trucks at the time. But to commemorate my visit of this city, I brought this souvenir. What souvenir are you taking back from Ramadan?
Allahu Akbar.
What souvenir? Because if you didn't take back souvenir, like, oh, you've never been, bro. You've never been to the Maldives. You've never been to Saudi. If you don't have a souvenir, I mean, that's the consumeristic view of it. But the analogy is, what souvenir are you taking back from Ramadan? Otherwise, you haven't been. So make that intention. What is the souvenir you want to take? And start now. One ayah, one page. Fast half a day if you need to. If it's so hard for you, right? If you're trying to make up the past year, make up the past year of Ramadan. If you missed anything, etc., etc., etc. So that's one. That's a short advice there, hopefully, on how. And again, I'm not a big on tactics, right? So I'm going to be deficient in this area. So that's one thing. The other thing that I would say around Ramadan and how to keep going. One of the main reasons why you make that physical ijtihad during Ramadan is because you are not eating. We know that, right? People will say the shaitan runs through the veins of somebody who has a full stomach, right? The Prophet ﷺ told us the worst vessel to fill is our stomach, right? And so it is no coincidence that in general, any day that you fast, you are going to be more productive, more focused, right? You might be tired, but when you are putting in the work, it is going to be of higher quality. Any work, even athletic work. I mean, we know Hakeem Olajuwon dominating the NBA, Kyrie Irving dominating the NBA while fasting, right? And so it is very, I mean, you know, soccer players in the UK, same thing, right? Mane and all these people, right? So basically, we have to use this Ramadan as a means to getting food freedom, because we have become enslaved to our foods as Muslims. And it's very, very serious. And it's very rare that I hear anybody talk about it, in part because we get most of our information from shuyukh, who they themselves, may Allah have mercy on them, are also addicted to food. So it's like really hard to get out of this loop. We don't have a bodybuilding sheikh out there. You know, not yet. The Rock is not Muslim. Maybe someday he will become Muslim, inshallah. Right? And so basically, it becomes really hard because people will say, look, brother, we don't smoke, we don't drink, we don't party, we don't do drugs. Food is my only pleasure. Right? That's fine. Food, pleasures are not forbidden in Islam. What's discouraged and to the degree of being forbidden is indulgence. If you are indulging in this pleasure, overindulging in this pleasure of food, it turns from being a blessing to being a curse. And let me give you an example. If you came to me and I had a glass of whiskey and I handed it to you, have a sip, what would you say? Here's your whiskey. What would you say? No, thank you. Would you feel this? You know, some people might be have a desire for it, or some people might crave it, whatever. But in general, 9 times out of 10, any Muslim, you show them the whiskey, like, no, thank you. What if I show you now a biryani? Right? Or if I show you your favorite dish, can you also say no, thank you? Most people will say no, I can't. I can't turn that. For me, it was cake. No matter how much I have eaten, right? If I went to a party and ate and I was full and it was, alhamdulillah, it was beautiful, I feel great right now, and somebody walks in late with a cake, I must have a slice of cake, even though I had to. Like, what are you Nazi? Why not? Like, I should have it. But when you cannot say no to something, it means that it has power over you. And the only thing that should have power over us is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So us as a community, so when you use Ramadan as a catalyst to remove the power of food over you, all that energy that you were struggling with around food, knowingly or unknowingly, gets invested in something else, in your wealth, in your health, in your relationships, in your career, in your ibadah, in your hifd, in your umrah, in your atikaf, in your khulwa, etc., etc. Because I am no longer fighting. I always joke about that. If Muslims didn't have to debate where are we going to eat when we meet, look how many millions of hours we'd be saved. We'd be making books and movies and cars and invented all sorts of things. But we're like, oh, debating, should we eat here, should we eat there? Is this halal, is this not halal, blah, 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 blah. Most of our time, notice it now. Now that I said it, it's going to become more frequent in your consciousness. But again, using this time to take your at least reduce the power that food has over you beyond Ramadan. And as I mentioned, we have a program that does that starts actually in a couple of weeks, inshallah, is one of the best ways to ensure that you will be able to pray extra rak'ahs after Ramadan. Because you'll have more energy. More energy meaning energetically, mentally, not energy necessarily speed-wise, right? And that's the power of Ramadan. In one of the transformative things, Allah somehow knew in his internal wisdom that food was going to become such a huge problem for us. Even the Prophet sort of foretold it, alayhi salatu wassalam, right? He said, we are people who eat and never get full, right? And I don't know if you're speaking specifically about the Arabs or about humans in general, but that's what it is, right? And here we have arrived to that age, the age of indulgence. I'm Algerian. If I want Algerian food right now, I pull up my phone, somebody will ring the doorbell. If I want cupcakes, I press my phone, it'll come. If I want to watch a Turkish show, I could find the exact Turkish show immediately. It's like zero delay. It's like almost the speed of thought. That is not healthy, right? And that's one way that you avoid relapsing during Ramadan. The third one, after Ramadan, the third one that I'll just say in general, and it's the premise that we use in our program for food freedom, is you have to have community.
Yeah.
Once you are committed, that's the first one. You have to make commitment that this Ramadan you're going to transform. This is the souvenir once you are committed, and once you do some work, and this work that I'm suggesting is to gain freedom over food. And then 3, you get the community to keep going. Because you have to realize that the shaitan has done a masterful job of picking us apart. Where we used to live as a tribe, all of us together, zero privacy. Right? Like all families, everybody living together, all surviving together. The pack, right? And then it became multi-generational families. And now many Muslim families still live in multi-generational families in the US and Europe and in Africa, etc. But that one economically was around the farm. You tend to the farm, right? The more children I have to tend to the farm, the more productive the farm is going to be. The more animals I can have, etc. Then the shaitan ushered us into the age of industrialism. Now it's factory job. The husband goes to the factory and works. The wife stays home, and you just, spending more than you can afford, and you just keep going on that rat race, right? And then the shaitan did the masterful stroke now, the age of the computer. We're now single families, right? It's just a husband and a wife living in a house and paying that mortgage. But now it's become the age of the computer where you could just sit on a laptop and make money. And you need nobody. Now it became the single individual household. Men not getting married, women not getting married. A man will say, I don't need a wife. I could get an app and get a cleaner. I could get an app and get food. I could get an app and get whatever I need. Right? And the wife is saying, I don't need a man. That's safe. I could buy my own house. I have my own career. See, it all revolved around economics. And now we're just solo individuals. And as you know, how does the wolf get the sheep? He picks them one by one when they're out of the pack. And that's exactly what's happened to us as a race, as a human race. All of us are just one, living at home, on my phone, on my laptop all the time. You got to have a community.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, mashallah, some real nuggets there, some real pearls of wisdom, and mashallah, Brother James, you're a learned brother, mashallah, Islamically, but a philosopher as well, I think, mashallah, in terms of your perspectives on life. May Allah bless you. And alhamdulillah, I've learned a lot, and I'll be watching this again, inshallah, just to kind of get those notes from those mental notes onto my device or onto a piece of paper. But I think, inshallah, unless anyone has any questions, we'll maybe wrap it up there. You mentioned your program, which is starting in 2 weeks, so I would love to give that a plug, please, and also please any links that you have, we can share that in the comments. But please just tell us a bit about your program, and how can people join and contact you for further details.
Absolutely. The program that's starting out is called Ramadan 365. Again, this idea, continuing the Ramadan blessings all year round. Continuing the Ramadan energy, the Ramadan worship all year round. That's the purpose of this program. And it starts with getting freedom from food. And basically what we do is, my routine was when I was a CTO, I come home, tired, exhausted, depressed, I'll have a piece of cake because it was a hard day. It was a difficult day. Let me feel better. Let me eat some cake. Then I'll pop some Tums, the heartburning medicine, and I'll go to bed. I'll wake up at night. I'll have heartburn. I have to go and take some more heartburn. And basically, when I was 22, I was 180 pounds. I don't know how many kilos that is, but I was fit. I was a basketball player. I played in college. And in my mind, I was still that 22-year-old. Every time I was like, oh, I'm just one diet away. If I just don't eat, when this Ramadan comes, I'm going to be really good. And, I'll lose the weight. And then moved on, and I started getting these unhealthy habits. I turn around 16 years later, and I'm 240 pounds. And I'm like 60 pounds or whatever over my playing days. And I'm still saying I'm one diet away from going back to 180, right? I'm going to shrink somehow. And that's when I decided to take it seriously. Because I was like, I don't want to do a fad diet. And we all know the Prophet ﷺ gave us the greatest nutritional advice. 1/3 water, 1/3 food, 1/3 air. And he even said 1/3 air. Now we know that the best breathing is actually diaphragmatic breathing, meaning you fill your belly with air first, then your chest. Because all of us breathe that shallow breathing that actually induces anxiety, right? And so we know that the science corroborates that, if you will. And so I started on this journey, and in the pandemic, I lost 50 pounds. I got to 175 pounds, which is lower than my playing weight. It wasn't a competition, it was just natural. That would seem to be my natural weight after Ramadan ended. And basically, and then I got my wife to lose about 50 pounds, my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law. So I knew if my family is on board, they're usually the biggest skeptics, right? And I didn't invite them. They just saw me like, holy moly, what is going on? Let's do it, right? My kids. And then now we started doing it with the broader Muslim community. But it's about food freedom. The result in living healthy and having control over your emotions, right? One sort of pleasant result of that is that you lose weight, you look younger, you feel better, you have higher energy. Depends on the person, right? But that's what the program does. It's 90 days. We walk you through this process, right? And it's not about, oh, don't eat this and don't eat that, or the keto diet or this diet. Like, it's not a diet. It's a way of life, again. But it also ties it in with Islam, right? It's all about, the goal is really to ascend spiritually. That's really what it is, right? How do you deepen your du'as? How do you deepen your ibadahs? How do you understand what you eat and what you don't eat from a spiritual perspective, right? And we do that for 90 days. Amazing transformations. You could go to our website. We had one person, she said she's been dieting since she learned the word diet when she was 13. She joined us when she was like 38, right? Or 39 maybe. And did surgery, did keto diet, never lost weight. Always gained, in fact. When she did this, she dropped 30, 40 pounds. And the key there is there's no relapse. Because once you taste food freedom, nothing tastes better than freedom. No donut, no biryani, no burger, no is going to taste better than optimal health. And and you being an example to your children, to your wives, to your neighbors, etc., etc., etc. But what's powerful about this program is once the 90 days are over, and I think we're doing a promotion right now, people sign up, we also then have we have a community that goes 90 days at a time, right? So it's an annual community, but you keep going. It's not as intensive as the program, but you have the group. We do some activities. We do the fasts, right? The Mondays and Thursdays fast, the 3 white night fast, just different things to keep us going into really getting to the point where we are like the Prophet. The Prophet didn't eat for 3-4 days, and like it was no qualms for him. He would just mention it off the cuff. I have not eaten in 3 days. Wallahi, I have not eaten in 4 days, 4 mornings. Right? Like, it's not a big deal to him. For us, if I didn't eat it in 1 hour, I'll be like raising hell. Oh my God, I cannot work. I just didn't drink this coffee right now. I didn't drink coffee. I cannot function. We'll just raise hell, right? And so is to get to that level of a relationship with food. You can eat whatever you want to eat, feeling good about it. And you could say no, not feeling like resentful or using willpower. Because the problem with Ramadan, we treat it like a diet. It's a high intensity, short-term effort. Yeah. That's what a diet is, and that's why it doesn't work. And I mentioned before, so I'm doing a workshop on Thursday, inshallah. It's free. Everybody's welcome. It's probably 8 p.m. UK time on the 6 barriers to food freedom. You see, I'll give you your followers a preview here, but basically, just like with Ramadan, we think the shaitan, once the shaitan is locked away, everything is good. The shaitan is like this mastermind that can do anything he wants, right? And we're all victims of his. What the shaitan does is that he knows our desires and just suggests along the paths of our desires. If I like cake, he's going to point, he sees a cake, he's going to point to the cake. If I like women, he's going to see the woman, he's going to point to the women, etc., etc. He just suggests, right? He doesn't make me do it. He doesn't put a gun to my head. I could just not do it, but I still do it because I'm following my desires. And that's the power. It's me. It's me who did the action, not the shaitan. But now, somebody took the shaitan's tactics and balled it up in this world, real time. And that's the food industry. Yeah. The food industry took from his playbook. They learned about our preferences and spent billions and trillions of dollars on exploiting our preferences. And I'll talk more about that and how if you just increase that awareness, you will be much, much better prepared to have an amazing Ramadan and beyond that. Because once you control your food, your du'as are going to be better, your prayers are going to be better, everything just improves. And that's why we stop before Ramadan starts. Because again, same reason that I said before, we want to hit Ramadan ready to go. Our ibadah is strong, our du'as are strong, our energy levels are right. We're not all like having withdrawals from coffee, etc., etc. And that's really the key, and really the big value of this program is that definitely this Ramadan is going to be better than the previous Ramadan, regardless of what you do afterwards, just because of the commitment and the intentionality that we put into starting earlier, inshallah ta'ala.
Inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan, Brother James, mashallah. I think it's excellent program, and I think you're both, yourself and Sister Zahra, mashallah, you're definitely a power couple, mashallah, complement each other really well. Very positive energy. I really benefited from having this exchange with you, inshallah. I hope we can continue this in the future as well, inshallah. I will be more than happy to promote your program. I have listened to the webinar as well, last week's one that you've done. It's definitely excellent value. Like, even if people didn't sign up, just the value that they get from just the webinar, subhanallah, there is like so much. But I think, you know, what Brother James said there is this, the key ingredient is community, you know, and having that accountability. I would probably go a step further, saying having the accountability where, you know, you can tap into each other's energy, you know, and have people checking in with you to see, you know, what went right, and support you and be like cheerleaders. And if something didn't go quite well, not to worry, you know, we're there for you. We can think of another hack, or you know, or maybe fine tune that action. So I think you've really, mashallah, got something very special there, which I definitely would definitely urge our brothers and sisters to join, inshallah, the masterclass on Thursday. Please, if you can share your links as well, we can put that in the comments, and that way people can just sign up. But thank you once again. May Allah bless you. Really grateful that we finally connected. I've had my eye on you for quite some time. I definitely need to get this brother on. So alhamdulillah, I'm glad it's finally happened, and inshallah we'll try to do this again sometime soon, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for the time.
Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
Thank you to everyone for joining and listening. Shukran.